Ahead on American Sunrise, the Washington, D.C. cleanup is underway. All of this as President Trump rolled out his plan for the National Guard to begin patrolling the streets of the nation's capital. Plus, the commander-in-chief is federalizing the D.C. Police Department. So, how will all of this ultimately play out? Plus, President Trump is set for a face-to-face with Vladimir Putin this Friday, but Volodymyr Zelensky will not be there. However, how involved will Ukraine ultimately be in the talks? We'll take a look. And Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is back with some new takes on Republicans. Her comments and so much more right now on American Sunrise.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Gina. We are live with you from the Palm Beaches. Let's bring in David Brody. He's in Washington, D.C., and Terrence Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Welcome back, Gina.
Thank you, thank you. Good to be back with you.
It's good to see your smiling face. You bring the sunrise to the show.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
Isn't it? Hey, guys, so look, obviously the big story is President Trump taking over D.C. and securing the nation's capital. In fact, we're hearing that D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is set to meet with Attorney General Pam Bondi. Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel have reportedly met with law enforcement there in the nation's capital already. But the reality is, David, there's been pushback to this, as I think most of us expected. There were some protests on the street of Washington, D.C. And as I put it in the story that I'll tell you later on, Muriel Bowser has been going in front of the cameras trying to save face to some degree.
Yeah, and the pushback is essentially this. The liberals are saying, hey, crime is down a little bit in D.C. Okay, hold on for a second. A little bit?
Wonder why.
So can we... Yeah, right. Well, there's that for sure. And can we have a little perspective? So let me get this straight. The argument from liberals here is, listen, crime isn't really bad in D.C. It's just now really bad. That's your argument, because they still have, D.C. still has the fourth highest homicide rate in the country. And in 2024, it was the top homicide rate in the country. So something needed to be done. And Gina, it'll be interesting because Trump is going to take over not just the National Guard, but the D.C. police force. I say Trump is going to do it. I mean, it's not like he's going to be in uniform or anything, but you know what I'm saying. But then what's going to be interesting here is that he can only do it for 30 days. And then after that, Congress has to get involved. So we'll see how it plays out, Dr. G.
Yeah, I don't know how that part will play out. That part is very curious to me, but obviously he probably has a plan. And look, if crime is down a little bit, it has nothing to do with the D.C. politicians. It has everything to do with getting a handle on illegal immigration, which is Trump's doing. So maybe what Bowser should do, and of course that's not going to happen, but maybe it should be a case of saying, hey, you know, obviously Trump knows a lot more about controlling crime than any of the bureaucrats in the city, so let's give this a go. It won't happen, but wouldn't that be nice if it would? Anyway, today's
One
Bible
of the things
verse. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dr. Gina.
No,
just very quickly, one of the things I found interesting in the arguments the Trump administration made is that they're basically saying that a lot of the crime that's happening in Washington, D.C. is at the hands of young people, at the hands of juveniles, which I found very interesting. They're basically saying that there are literally gangs of young people who are going about, criminal acts because they realize that under current laws, they're not going to be able to punish. So that's something I think we'll dig a little bit deeper into as well. Let's pray for the kids, Dr. Gina.
100%. All right. Today's Bible verse goes like this. It's Isaiah 54:10. For the mountains shall depart and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you, nor shall my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has mercy on you. Well, President Trump announced he's deploying the National Guard and federalizing Washington, D.C. police, as we just stated, as part of the efforts to clean up the Capitol. Here is what he had to say about it.
This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful Capitol was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially, Capitol in the world. We always had. But people come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of tragedy there. And every weekend you can look at the death toll, and it mounts. For more, let's bring in the editor-in-chief for Breitbart News, and he's also the author of Breaking the Law, Exposing Weaponization of America's Legal System Against Donald Trump. Alex Marlow. Alex, good to see you, our old friend. How do you see this D.C. situation happening? Because if it's over in 30 days, how much can really get done, and what are the chances Congress is actually going to give President Trump a green light beyond that?
Oh, Dr. Gina, good to see you. Same to you, David. Nice to meet you, Terrence. Really nice to be on the show for the first time. I'll tell you, we learned this during the coronavirus that, 15 days to slow the spread, could be 30 days. I don't know. I just hope Trump stays forever. I'm a former Washington, D.C. resident. And when I got to Washington, D.C., it was about 2013 or so. And it was a vibrant place. It got even better when Donald Trump won in 2016. He's correct. This is potentially one of the most beautiful nation's capitals in the world. It's one of the most beautiful, potentially, cities in America, just given the history, given the topography, given the monuments, given the museums. There's no reason that we shouldn't have this be one of the most excellent cities on earth. By the time I left D.C. in 2021, you would go down Georgetown. Every other store has broken windows or boarded up shops or graffiti everywhere, more homelessness, more crime, more insecurity. This isn't lost on Trump. When he left D.C. and he comes back, he realizes that things become an S-hole country. He doesn't want that. That's a national disgrace. He's not going to accept it. So, of course, he should do something. And I'll tell you, for my wife's work, I moved back to the L.A. area. I hope when he's done with D.C., he figures out a way to come here and help us out over here.
No doubt about that. He's had such an impact ever since he glided down the escalator, Alex, in 2015. I recently had the chance to sit down, actually, with former NBC anchor Chuck Todd, and this is what he had to say about President Trump's impact on the country. Take a look.
Look, I don't think we've had anybody have this much impact on the country since FDR. So I think when you look at it, and that's what for culturally in particular, certainly in how even our politics is conducted in that sense. I think the question is, does he have impact on policy for decades to come? But I think culturally in particular, and certainly on our political identity, I think he's had, not since FDR, we had this kind of a president with, look, he wants to involve himself in everything. FDR involved himself in almost everything.
Including the commander's name.
Including who the CEO of Intel should be. I mean, these are things that you and I know the previous Republican Party would have how dare government tell business what to do?
Yeah.
And yet there's almost an acceptance. There's no outcry.
Yeah.
Right? So that's real change.
So, Alex, President Trump apparently liked that interview. I figured he would. He just put this up on Truth Social about an hour ago or so. I won't read the whole thing, but he quotes Chuck Todd, and then he says, Chuck Todd, formerly of NBC Fake News, in an interview with journalist David Brody. Wow, thank you, Chuck. I always said that you were far better than the scum that runs the fake news at NBC, and especially Brian Roberts and Comcast. You're a free man now. Congratulations. Use your time well. It is refreshing to see Chuck Todd with the shackles off. I mean, he's still liberal, but the shackles are off at NBC. So, he can say things like that. He would have been just absolutely eviscerated at NBC for saying something like that.
Yeah, there's something interesting there because Chuck Todd, he did a big interview with us at Breitbart maybe 10, 12 years ago, I think before Trump actually broke his brain. So he always had potential as a journalist, but you get into this ecosystem where you just behave in a certain way compulsively almost, even though it's against your best interest, you can't help it. And that's really what the Republican Party had been like prior to Donald Trump. I'm a lifelong Republican, often reluctantly so, but I have been. But there were these things where we got trapped into all these terrible ideas. Like we were behind NAFTA, we were okay with open borders, we were getting into every war around the country. Why were we doing all this stuff and we couldn't stop it? We had no ability to fight back against the Democrat street fighters or the establishment media. And then Donald Trump comes down and he just says, we're not doing any of that stuff anymore. We're ready to go and we're ready to do stuff that's outside the box. And that's what he's doing with crime. Here is the problem with a lot of our major cities. They're one-party towns, Democrat Party, and if they start cracking down on crime, there's going to be a short to medium term statistical uptick in crime. Not actual uptick in crime. Crime will go down, but it'll be a statistical uptick because they'll actually have to admit how much crime is going on in order to crack down on it. Because of that, they don't do anything. And so it takes someone like Donald Trump to say, well, okay, well, what if we just ignored that and we just did something anyway, not worried about the stats for 5 minutes? And that's what's going to happen, and it's going to help.
Hey, Alex, Terrence here. I am curious about your sometimes reluctance to be a Republican, but we're going to have to invite you back on to talk about that. I'm sure it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm happy
you
to
said
talk
it,
about
and
that
I was like,
one
oh,
more.
really? I'm curious. I'm intrigued. But I'm also very intrigued about the new book. It's called Breaking the Law, Exposing the Weaponization of America's Legal System Against Donald Trump. Tell us what some of the big takeaways are.
Yeah, that's kind of you to ask, and thanks for having me on to share with you. I spent a year doing a deep investigation into the lawfare against Donald Trump. I do a brief history of lawfare going back to FDR and the liberal impulse to try to control politics from the legal apparatus, which has only grown, really accelerated with Joe Biden when he got to the Senate, and then even more so with Barack Obama and Eric Holder when during the Obama administration. But it just got a mind of its own after really toward the end of Donald Trump's first administration and into his interim of his presidencies. And the centerpiece of the book is really a primer on the six major cases against Donald Trump, all of which were, I believe, improper. I think a lot of them had illegalities to them that need to be investigated. It's a blueprint of where investigation should take place. I was heartened that 3 days after the book came out and I called for an investigation at Tish James. We're getting an investigation at Tish James. So I got good news for the audience. Investigation season is just starting. There's going to be a half a dozen more, maybe a dozen, and there should be. And it'll be nice to know what's being investigated, what's going on. The web that Trump had to untangle to survive and win that election, we have not begun to understand how incredible that accomplishment was and how unjust it was. There's not just two tiers of justice in this system. There's a three-tier justice system where we have now Donald Trump gets essentially attacked for non-crimes. And then he gets a cruel and unusual punishment for those non-crimes that he didn't even commit. And he somehow won the presidency during all that. So, and finally, the book's a warning that if we don't start taking this stuff seriously, if we don't stay engaged on a civic level 24/7, 365, the left will use the lawfare superstructure to beat us again.
Well, dare I say that our good friend Andrew Breitbart would be very proud of the legacy that you have continued there at Breitbart and certainly with your new book. Everybody go get a copy. It's called Breaking the Law, wherever fine books are sold. Alex Marlow, thank you for being with us today.
You guys
Thanks,
are too
Alex.
kind. You're great. I'll come back soon.
Good. We'd love to have
Thanks,
you.
Alex.
All right, coming up, we check out the hottest headlines from the Wrap Newsroom with T. Bates. And later, the House Oversight Committee chairman aiming to get Bill and Hillary Clinton to talk about the Russia probe origins at the same time as the Epstein questions. Will they talk? We have the latest just ahead on American Sunrise.